Did you know that if you wanted to watch all 25 seasons of Pokemon, you would have to spend $486.50 to see it all on streaming services? Well, let me explain, using the official guide on the Pokemon website.
Season 1 is available on Netflix, except it's only the first 52 episodes, as the latter 30, and including special episodes, are considered part of Season 2 in North America for some reason. Netflix costs $8 a month with ads, or $18 a month without them. The reason why I point out the distinction is because if I were to buy the DVDs, I wouldn't be having advertisements in between the episodes anyway, but let's move on. If you want to watch the remainder of Season 1 and the entirety of Season 2 though, then you'll have to purchase Amazon Prime for $15 a month plus $50 for all 60 episodes. According to the Pokemon website, this is the only streaming service that has this season available, and Prime Video also now runs ads in between its content. But following that, Seasons 3 through 13 are included with Amazon Prime at no additional cost. How kind. But if you're actually looking for Season 14, it's locked behind the same pricing scheme as Season 2, 12 episode chunks at $10 a piece, making Season 14 actually cost $40. 15 is also another pair of Jacksons, while Season 16 lowers the price of his dozens by $1 each, except for the last 12 episodes, which is $10 again. Now Season 17 they must have been pretty proud of, because each portion costs $11.88, not sure why, but Season 18, that one wasn't as good. $10.89 per segment. Actually, those last 12 episodes were pretty good, $11.88. Season 19 was as good as 17, so we'll make that one the same cost. But Season 20, that's where the series really takes off. Those first 11 episodes are $19 of entertainment, baby, but the season kind of falls off, so let's say $10.89 for the next 11, and then the final 22 combined for $19.80. Sun and Moon Ultra Adventures, first 24 episodes, split them for $11.88 each, but the last 24 are $10 per dozen. We didn't like those quite as much. Sun and Moon Ultra Legends, now that's $12.87 for 13 episodes. Actually, now that we're in the second half of the official season, it's $13.86. Then finally, seasons 23 through 25 are available on Netflix. Oh, did I mention that these are the prices for the seasons if you want them in standard definition? There are 1,234 episodes of Pokemon in the original 25 seasons, which translates to 452 hours of animation, or around 19 days. And that means that if you're as unemployed as most video essay channels make themselves out to be, you could technically watch everything in the span of 1 month. Tallying up the score, the cost of 1 month of watching all of Pokemon on legal streaming services from start to finish with as much ad-free viewing as physically possible is $486.50. That is, given that all of these streaming services keep the seasons they say they have, given that you only keep your subscription for a month, and given that you live in the United States. I can't speak in terms of international availability. And this whole segment does hinge on someone wanting to watch all the seasons of Pokemon, but I'm using Pokemon as a specific example to counter the argument that piracy hurts companies, which is a statement that has been repeatedly proven incorrect. What is the Pokemon Company going to do? Become even more of the world's most successful franchise? There was this whole Twitter argument about how the onus was on the viewers to shell out the cash to financially support their favorite series. In the case of Pokemon, that's already been done with overwhelmingly successful results. And heck, I have this little creature as a mascot for the channel. In the case of many other series though, it is physically impossible to continue supporting them. The other point of using Pokemon for this example isn't necessarily in the concept of wanting to watch all of Pokemon, but rather to use a successful and clear thread to show how much media consumption on streaming platforms costs over time. Even if it's not in the space of this month, merely bouncing between two of the streaming platform giants still racks a pretty hefty chunk of change, meaning that this doesn't include subscriptions to other services like Max, Disney+, Hulu, and so on. In other words, if Amazon arbitrarily decides that your film or series of choice costs extra, even if you have a Prime membership, you will eventually rack up over 400 viewing hours and nearly $500 worth of an entertainment bill. $500, okay, sure, I have spent that amount and then some over the years that I've been on Steam, but now you have to consider that even after paying to rent or buy anything on Amazon Prime, it still has advertisements alongside it. So now not only have you spent $500, but you also have had your time wasted. Streaming services initially pitched themselves as a cleaner, easier alternative to DVDs and cable. You don't have to have the shelf space for the DVDs, and it's way more accessible than cable, which is something I'll get back to later in this video. Plus, by paying a regular premium price, you also didn't get advertisements in between your movies and television episodes. It was an acceptable trade-off. Now it's $500, there's advertisements interrupting the so-called premium package that was paid for, and there's a very real chance that what you're looking for might disappear one day. So one of my favorite content creators is a YouTuber by the name of Olin Rogers. The first videos I ever watched on YouTube in 2007 outside of the TF2 character trailers were sketch comedy pieces by a channel called Balloon Shop. Balloon Shop was headed by 3 people: Joss Persley, Thomas Gore, and of course Olin Rogers. After the channel stopped uploading regularly, I went out of my way to try and follow up on each of their individual careers. Joss and Thomas would upload some content to their respective channels, but they weren't quite as frequent or focused as Olin's improvised story series that emerged around this time. Now, skipping a whole bunch of history in between, Olin went on to upload an animated pilot in 2016 of a series called Final Space. The show was picked up for its first season by TBS in 2018 before moving to Adult Swim for its second and third seasons in 2019 to 2021. And I personally found it really cool that this person that I had quite literally grown up watching was able to go from content like this
Hey Alex, what you doing?
to being the writer and director of a cartoon series that stars actors that I recognize from other major properties like Stephen Yeun, David Tennant, Tom Kenny, and Fried Armisen. The fantasy couldn't last though, as Final Space's 4th season was axed in late 2021 due to the Warner Media and Discovery merger, reportedly taken in as a tax write-off in 2022, and then obliterated from existence after it was pulled from Netflix in late 2023. It's impossible to find the DVD cases for these anywhere. You can't find it on any regular streaming service. Final Space is literally just gone. Rogers was also informed by Warner that he was legally not allowed to fund any animation projects that would continue or at least conclude Final Space, but in his desire to pull everything together, he has since been working on a graphic novel to give the series some finality. I'll be real here, Final Space wasn't a perfect series. The comedy was grating and adolescent at times, but in between those rough patches was a fairly heartfelt and exciting series about exploring the vastness of the universe. Unlike some other science fiction properties, the topics of death and found family were taken seriously, which made it feel more grounded. I watched the series wherever I could as legally as I could because I wanted to support Olin and his endeavors. Since the show was seeing some marks of success, I had no reason to believe that it was going to be put into Warner Media's list of tax write-offs that they seem to love to do. I find it really funny that I'm out here scraping pennies together, and if I get $600 or more in editing commissions, I have an IRS agent with 2 fingers up my ass, but Warner Media can make multi-million-dollar projects and cancel them repeatedly for the sake of writing them off on tax dockets. I love it. The only way that I can directly support Final Space nowadays is by either buying the graphic novel or a t-shirt from Olin's website, and my money is not going to bring the full animated series back at this point. Even if I wanted to revisit it, there's no normal way of doing so. Which leads me into the point I've wanted to discuss all along, the fact that preservation of media, digital or otherwise, has been villainized and victimized in a digital age that has seen the practice become more necessary as time has gone on. One of the most important aspects of human history is the preservation of art, as it helps inform and improve what we create in the modern day, while also keeping important historical context intact. If you go to the history of any country on Wikipedia, one of the very first things they often mention in the history are charts or drawings or even sculptures that was created by the early colonies that were in these countries when they were first being founded. Keeping pieces of media and art intact has proven to be difficult depending on a variety of factors, but in the present day we clearly have the ability to preserve so much and are actively choosing to disintegrate media for the sake of finances. Now, Drew Gooden made a video a few years ago talking about how cable TV is a complicated and expensive mess, and honestly, compared to cable services in terms of accessibility and pricing, streaming services are still an okay deal, especially if you get a streaming service for one specific television show. But when we consider the rise of video streaming, we have to equally consider what it sought to replace. Streaming services sought to replace cable by removing the inaccessibility caused by time slots. your favorite show might get arbitrarily moved to 2 a.m. local time, and keeping up with the episodes now becomes impossible because you're a normal human being with obligations. Now you can watch them more on your own free time, and you can watch all the episodes all at once. Except streaming services are removing and shuffling their availability like a deck of cards, making the added investment less worth the repeated purchase. They also initially replaced cable because of how much more it offered. Sometimes getting a specific cable package also meant that you were getting that package for one specific channel or even a singular television show. Everything else was kind of lumped in there. Meanwhile, streaming had just about everything in its pocket, especially when it was in the early days of Netflix. But nowadays, if you want to watch Disney films, you need Disney Plus, or Hulu for this show, or Paramount Plus, or Max, or Prime Video, or Apple TV, and the list goes on and on. It's basically the same idea as cable nowadays, where instead of charging $300 monthly for a bunch of advertisement-filled channels that might not have a program that you're looking for, you're getting charged a conglomerate $486.50 monthly for a bunch of advertisement-filled channels that might not have a program that you're looking for, except now they're online. These services are also made worse by the fact that the companies running them aren't legally required to pay out residuals to the people involved in the making of their product, since there's no official record of what's being watched and when. We have heard several accounts of actors, directors, and writers who have outright stated that these residual payments for an earlier project they did was part of what helped keep them afloat during their fledgling years.
The DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream. Technology has just made that obsolete. You could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release, and 6 months later you'd get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make.
This was one of the primary reasons why the Screen Actors Guild and Writers Guild of America went on strike in 2023. The strikes weren't just for the benefit of the most important actors in Hollywood, they were there for the majority of people working from paycheck to paycheck trying to deliver on C-grade projects that might help keep them afloat for the next big thing. It might surprise you, but there's a lot more content out there beyond the 34th Marvel Cinematic Universe film with another multi-millionaire A-list actor. And heck, you even see it here on YouTube, how on the gaming side, most everyone knows of Jacksepticeye or Markiplier, but there are hundreds of thousands of other YouTube channels who also just want to exist. So in the same vein, the people that the strikes were supposed to help the most are the acting students who work full-time jobs at your local Starbucks to make ends meet so that they can maybe fulfill their own creative endeavors and continue to entertain people. The other half of the SAG-AFTRA strikes was contributed to by the meteoric rise of generative AI. Now, AI being used as a tool to help with impossible calculations or help with motion tracking in a video is fine. The AI that I'm talking about is the stuff that completely replaces the need for creative input by taking every other artist's work and amalgamating it into lifeless imagery that some tech bro said was generally appealing to them. It has the capability to imitate the best by throwing it into the cyber blender, and therefore the people whose wallets can be made heavier by holding onto their extra zeros will look for ways to make sure they can hold on to those digits for as long as physically possible, burning anybody that come across otherwise. This includes taking the talented from the highest echelons of the red carpet events to cramped broom closets that double as writing rooms, and signing away every part that makes them an actor so that they can be tossed into the machine and recreated until the end of time at no added expense. So what does this have to do with streaming services? As you all well know by now, most streaming services are owned and operated by major entertainment corporations. Disney has Disney Plus along with Hulu, Paramount is Paramount Plus, and so on. These streaming services do not pay out residuals to the people involved in the creation of the shows that are hosted on their servers. Now, you'll have to remember that some of these streaming services have their own exclusive shows that they create for their website specifically, like Netflix originals. And so putting two and two together, if I were to sign away my likeness to HBO by doing some low-budget, low-cost project that they buy for a nominal fee, they could take my voice, face, and physique and recreate it over and over again without ever having to pay me again. All so that we can spend $500 fucking at a base price to legally watch every season of Pokemon. DVDs uniquely have the problem of being easy to destroy and lose.
The maintenance that one has to do to make sure they remain in pristine condition is subconsciously tedious and makes one a little bit more hesitant to lend them out to friends and family, hence the reason that their availability is usually restricted to whatever someone has purchased in their library. Additionally, if you want to watch more movies, you have to go out of your way to purchase them, which then becomes even more of a problem on your shelf space and, again, availability and pricing. New movies on DVD are prohibitively expensive, especially if they're for a popular franchise, and visiting a theater to watch the newest flicks is money and time consuming. Plus, if it's in the theaters, how will you know if you like the movie or not before you've bought the ticket? It's for all of these reasons that streaming was gradually accepted as the best option for watching movies, a handful of conveniences at an affordable price, all while requiring nothing more than a magic box and an internet connection. You already have an internet connection at home in order to watch this video, so the added fee isn't a problem if you want to tack on a streaming box too. That all being said, I think we are severely underestimating the power of secondhand stores and the fact that there are more movies out there than anyone can watch in their lifetime. This is my collection of DVDs, all of which I bought over the course of a year, each of which cost an average of maybe $4 per case. I haven't seen some of these, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but because of various recommendations and high accolades, I bought it from Goodwill and plan on seeing it sometime soon. The best news is that if I don't want to keep these movies, all it cost me was maybe $4, and that was it. I feel like there's so much unwanted slop on all the streaming services that even if I spent time with my $18 a month Netflix subscription to watch The Great British Baking Show, the caveat is that I'd be spending $18 a month for just The Great British Baking Show while still feeling guilty about that dollar amount. As time has gone on and streaming services have gotten individually worse, the experience of endlessly wading through miles upon miles of serialized nonsense becomes equal parts unfulfilling and mind-numbing. A full year of Netflix at its most premium plan of $25 a month can cost you over $300, not including sales tax, which I don't have because I live in Oregon, but it's a factor basically everywhere else. Now be honest, do you think that you got $300 of entertainment out of Netflix this year? Do you really think that you can spare the time and money to watch all 25 seasons of Pokemon in 1 month for around $500, or would it be better to find the cases individually over time? Furthermore, while free or lowered paid options are certainly available for these streaming services, they are completely littered with advertisements for products that I'm sure a lot of you don't care about. And I get that streaming services need to make money to pay for some things on their backend, but that's ideally what the paid option should have been doing in the first place in exchange for a service that actually works as expected. The prior convenience of streaming services was their widespread accessibility, but now they're a collection of endless bloat. They are a perfect caricature of the aimless demands of the far too comfortable upperclassmen, a veritable vortex of disposable income to be reconstructed into a box that looks large and promising, when in reality it's 95% foam packaging with a falsely advertised promise that there's something good within if you keep digging or keep paying their monthly subscription fee. The people that I have talked to that enjoy Netflix or most other streaming services either do it because they have a specific show in mind, or they have it because everyone else does. What ends up happening then is that you get this specific group of people who only care about what's popular and not what's actually good. And so the subscription keeps getting charged out to the credit card passively for the undecided and complacent, just so that everyone else can go ahead and get totally fucked. At the end of the day, you might only be spending $8 a month on Netflix with ads, but the real loss there is the time that you spend being shown products that don't matter to you on a platform that sees most of its promising content as a convenient tax write-off. Save yourself some time and headache. Buy the DVDs or whatever you have to do to get your favorite films together, because the first person that loses when they buy a subscription service is you. That's all I have for this rant. Thanks for watching. Safe travels, and goodbye.